God wires us with unique skills and passions. He does it for a reason. If you're wired to do technical things, or you have a passion to fly or be a mechanic or do anything like that, you can do that to serve the kingdom.
Hello, friend. We're glad you're here today to join us on Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. I'm Ron Harris. What does it take to be a missionary today? Well, it may take someone just like you, with the unique skills and abilities God gave you to do your part in the Great Commission. And here's your host, Galcom's Tim Whitehead, to tell you more.
Well, thank you, Ron. Thank you, friend, for joining us again here on the Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. We want to plug you in somewhere, somehow, some way into sharing your faith and the good news of Jesus Christ with others. So, on this week's program, we're continuing our conversation with Steve Russell of JAARS. That's JAARS, J-A-A-R-S, the Jungle Aviation, and again, he'll explain it later. If you did not hear the first part of our conversation, you want to go to our website, galcom.org, go to the Mission Compass icon, and right at the top there, you can see the podcast version of the Mission Compass. Get caught up, and then, this will make a lot more sense in context. So, really excited about what Steve and the team at JAARS does, how we partner together in ministry. It's about partnership. We're all parts of the body, all contributing our little bit. You don't have to do everything, but you need to do something. Producer Brent, who else do we have on our program?
We're talking with Sam Ebersole from GNA.
Talking about doing your part. If you can't go, if you're not a pilot, if you can't go overseas to serve God, you can do it right where you are. And our friends at GNA have great instructions on how to use your cell phone. I'm sure you got one in your pocket on telling God's story. Go to gna.news to see a lot of the stories that have been produced for them by their reporters around the world using their cell phones. And then there's instructions on how you can do it too. Is your church doing something special? Are you volunteering at a mission somewhere? Tell God's story. Be part of letting people know what God is doing. Anybody else, Producer Brent?
We have a devotional from Bonnie Sela.
Of course, our good friends at Guidelines, who produce the Guidelines for Living devotional, Reset devotional. We partner with them in distributing radios around the world. We've worked together on putting radio stations in. Love partnering with Bonnie Sela and her team. So let's turn it over to her now, get built up in our faith, so then, hey, we can share it with others.
William Shakespeare is known for penning the line, neither a borrower nor a lender be. But the fact is that all of us have a loan that could be called in at any time. I'm Bonnie Sela with Reset. Jesus told the story of a rich fool. The man found himself with an overabundant harvest and so decided to tear down his existing barns and build bigger barns in which to hoard his wealth. Thinking about his dilemma, he said, I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. The man considered his surplus, like his life, to be his own. If you read the story in the Bible book of Luke, you'll notice that the man refers to my crop, my barn, my grain, my goods, and my soul. But that night, as he went to sleep feeling smug and satisfied with himself, God said to him, Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? He did not realize, wrote a wise man, that the bellies of the poor were much safer storerooms than his barns. These are powerful countercultural truths for us as well. Like the rich man, my life is not my own, but is on loan from God, who could demand its return at any time. Jesus finished his story by saying, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. The life lived richly toward God stores up treasures that can never be lost. I'm Bonnie Sela. Ready to grow your faith? Discover practical tools and more at guidelines.org.
Well, friend, every week here on the Mission Compass, we want to get you involved somehow, some way in serving God in the Great Commission. And to that end, every month, we get GNA, the Global News Alliance, to join us to tell us how we can do that using our cell phone. Sharing a story from around the world of what God is doing and then helping equip us to tell the story right where we are. So their Director of Training, Sam Ebersole, joins us once again. Dr. Sam, great to have you with us.
Tim, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So normally, each month, you take us somewhere around the world. We've been to South Africa with you. We've been to the Carolinas after the hurricanes there. We've been all over the place. Last week, really out of left field, talking about Lego. So friends, go back into our podcast and check out that. But are we still kind of in the digital realm here? Or are we going back into real life, real world?
No, this is as real world as it gets. This is real people in a real place. Tirana, Albania. And if people don't know much about Albania, and I'm glad to know that Galcom has several strong ministries on the ground there. But if you don't know much about it, it is a country, former communist bloc, I'm pretty sure, right?
It was, yeah.
But was the first country to declare itself officially atheist in 1967. Now, that changed in 1991, but still, they have a long legacy, many, many years of being proud of and promoting atheism. But there have been some significant changes in recent years. And just recently, the Palau Association, Andrew Palau, had an event called Tirana Fest. And they had hundreds of volunteers who came alongside them. They had music, they had outreach, they had preaching of the gospel. And it was a historic week of outreach. And from their website, it says, the message of Jesus has been spoken publicly with boldness and compassion in a city once closed off to the faith. So we have a piece about that. And then I want to talk a little bit about just some of the ways that we can tell stories, including things that have a historical element that might be difficult to portray visually, and I'll just talk about that briefly after we take a look at the piece.
All right, let's learn a little bit more about what God is doing in Albania.
Awesome.
In the former atheist nation of Albania, more than 1,000 people responded to an invitation to accept Christ into their lives during this summer's Tirana Fest. Coordinated by the Palau Association, thousands gathered in Tirana's Skanderberg Square for a weekend of music, worship and a message of hope from Andrew Palau.
Jesus Christ, He paid the price. He came into this world to give us confidence about eternal life.
The evangelist said it was so inspiring to be able to freely preach the gospel where it was previously illegal to be a Christian there.
It was a great fulfillment of many years of ministry and partnership together since the overflow of that very significant dictatorship that caused Albania to be for more than 40 years isolated. You could think of it maybe like North Korea. Our gathering was thousands, the church is not massive, but their effort was significant and historic. And it was beautiful to see the joyful, enthusiastic response to the gospel. Great testimonies of friends bringing friends, of course, is the main strategy.
And the Palau Association is currently planning future outreach festivals in Zimbabwe, Argentina, Spain and Reno, Nevada. Peter Wooding reporting for the Global News Alliance.
And friend, if you are listening on radio or to one of our podcast channels, you want to head over to YouTube, the Mission Compass there, and watch the footage of what was happening there in the main square in Tirana, Albania, or even better, go to gna.news. You'll find that and many other stories of what God is doing around the world. And Sam, our friends can join the Global News Alliance. They can become a reporter, and you've got a tip for us on how they can make good quality, engaging video to tell God's story.
That's right. We are looking for correspondents. Sometimes in the news business, you call them stringers, but we're looking for people who want to tell journalistic stories, not made-up stories, journalistic stories, fact-based stories about what God is doing in their community, in their church, in their community, in their country, on their continent, in their language, in their culture. So we're looking for people who can file reports like this. Now, this happens to be a U.S.-based ministry in Albania, but it could have been this story could have been filed by an Albanian Christian reporter on the ground there. And in some ways, that would be better. I mean, we're honestly trying to work ourselves out of a position, right? We're trying to get people to tell their own stories in ways that can be understood and related to by other folks, other believers around the world, and even unbelievers. Unbelievers see our stories too, but it's primarily to encourage the faithful. So I hope you're encouraged watching that story about Albania. I mean, everything I know about the country from the history lessons was about that very dark period when it was completely shut off from any gospel message because they were proud of the fact that they were atheists and that's what they were going to be. But that has changed and is changing. And to see a public event like this in the streets of Albania is very encouraging. Now, we saw the short interview soundbite from Andrew Palau, the head of Palau Ministries now. And he was obviously being interviewed, I believe, probably from his home via Zoom, which is what we're doing right now. We're interviewing via Zoom. It's a very common technique. But to just watch a talking head is not so exciting, right? So B-roll is important. And if you're going to talk about B-roll of something that happened in the past, 40, 50, 60 years in the past, what do you do? Well, in this case, you saw that there were several photographs from that revolutionary time. There's also a short black and white film clip from that period of time. So with a little bit of research online, you can sometimes find these photographs or even film clips and incorporate them into your news story when you're talking about something that happened in the past. And then when he talked about what's happening now in the present, again, we didn't see him on camera just talking. We heard and saw what he was talking about. So in news, we call it show and tell. You remember show and tell when you were a second grader, right?
Yeah.
But showing is always better than just telling. Telling is important. Telling the gospel, there's even scriptures about go and tell the gospel, but showing is even more powerful. So when you combine them together, showing and telling, it's strong visuals with strong claims of faith in what's happening and the truth of what you've witnessed. That together makes a great combination.
Yeah. Friends.
And I was going to mention the Ken Burns effect real quickly, if I can, if I have a minute. So on those photographs, they weren't just still photo. I mean, they're still photos, but it wasn't just a still shot. The camera pushed in just ever so slightly or panned left or panned right or moved on it in some way. And it's often referred to as the Ken Burns effect because Ken Burns, if you remember the documentary series that he produced, quite a number of them for PBS, including the Civil War, he used a lot of historic photographs, obviously, because that's all he had to work with visually. And he would do these camera moves on the photos and they kind of came alive. You're hearing sound effects of what it sounded like, Gettysburg, whatever it was, and you're hearing the words of generals that were written as letters. You're hearing them spoken by actors. The whole thing is a cinematic experience now, but brings it to life. You can do the same thing with news. You have to be careful. You can't get too creative or you start to step outside of what is traditional journalism, but it is a powerful tool that can be used.
Yeah, so friends, we want you to tell God's story with excellence, and that's what the GNA is all about, the Global News Alliance. Go to their website, gna.news, and there's a whole bunch of videos and instructions on how to use your cell phone, and probably you have a cell phone with you right now, to share God's story. And then go to YouTube and search up Global News Alliance Academy, and there's even more information in videos. We're here at the Mission Compass. We're all about sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. We want to do it with excellence. We want you to share your story, what God is doing in your life, to be a witness. And Sam, in radio, we joke that TV is just radio with pictures. It's not. It's those pictures tell stories. So getting those stories, putting in that effort of taking the right pictures, grabbing, as you said, historical things to tell the story in pictures of what God is doing. So friends, gna.news to get more information. And we'd love to have you join the Alliance, join us at Galcom, just being part of the Great Commission, telling the good news about Jesus Christ. And Sam, before I let you go, I got to let you know, I've been in Albania a few times, and here's all that I've learned there. Zoti u bakoft. God bless you.
Well, there you go. That's all you need, right?
Thanks again, Sam.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, friend, last week, I introduced you to a new friend of mine. Steve Russell, president of JAARS, the Jungle Aviation and Relay Service, a support ministry behind the scenes. People don't know what they're doing, helping the kind of the traditional missionaries, the Wycliffe Bible translators and others do the work that God has called them to. But one thing that came out of that conversation is those pilots, mechanics, accountants, support staff, they are missionaries too. We want to tell you more about them. Steve, great to have you back with us this week.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you.
So last week we talked a bunch, and friends, if you didn't get to listen to the program live on your favorite Christian radio station, visit our website, galcom.org, click on the Mission Compass icon, and you can listen to the podcast version. We're also on YouTube and all of your favorite streaming platforms, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. So listen to that program when you're done with this one, just in case, because you want to hear some of those stories about Steve's experience traveling to some very unique places. But Steve, we talked a lot about the pilots last week. You guys also, and this kind of touches our heart here at Galcom, you do some radio work, you do some other technology. Tell us a little bit more about the services you provide for missionaries that are really in isolated remote areas.
We have ways that we have to keep in touch with people. When we first started the organization, obviously high frequency radio, HF radio was key to that. We might know it as ham radios, some things like that. We still operate HF capability in our aircraft. And I've been president at JAARS about 3 years now, and it was one of the capabilities I didn't want to lose. When satellites go down or bandwidth is taken over by governments because of emergencies, how are you going to communicate? Well, unless God allows mankind to take away the atmosphere, you can bounce radio waves off of them. And so we have that capability. We are able to still use HF radio, and we have an operations center here in our Waxhaw, North Carolina campus where we track. At any given time, we can see where our 47 approximately aircraft are, where our ship, the little Quadima 2 that putters around in the Solomon Sea, we can see where all of those assets are and where the people are that are doing the work. That helps us pray for them, know where they're at to help track them. It's important that we maintain strong communications and backup systems.
Yeah, it's here in the West, we're all on Wi-Fi. We just take out our phone, we're connected to everything. Yeah. You were describing last week about dropping somebody off into a bowl of a valley surrounded by mountains with a steep incline of a runway. Like there's no Wi-Fi. So this is good old fashioned radio is still the best way to communicate. So we talked about flying. We talked a little bit about radio. You just mentioned about a ship that you have.
Sure.
Tell us more about that.
So we have the little Quadima 2. It is a 15-ton vessel. Ship's probably a kind word. Think of a decent-sized tugboat in size. It gets up to a mighty 7 knots an hour. But just in the last year, that little thing has been puttering around over 4,000 miles, taking missionaries and linguists and others into the inter-island waterways in very remote locations in the Solomon Sea. Solomon Sea obviously runs between New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, and we work an awful lot out of there. It's anchored at Alatau in Papua New Guinea, so that's where we have it based, and we have a New Guinean crew that is part of JAARS, and they operate the ship. And we keep that program going. It is operated by us.
I'd say this almost every week, that God has a place for every skill set, every interest. Right. It's not just the evangelists, the Bible translators. So, we were talking about all the different needs, pilots and mechanics and support staff. And
mariners,
drivers. We missed them on the list last week,
Yeah. Shippers, receivers, parts inventoriers. I mean, it's just the list goes on.
So this is kind of, is it romantic, I guess is the word? You're thinking about this ship going through these islands. Any stories, I'm thinking of Gilligan's Island right now, a ship, shipwreck, lost at sea. Right. Just to give us a picture of what they're facing. We talked a little bit about the pilots last week.
Sure.
What are they facing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis as they do their ministry?
Well, obviously you've got weather concerns. You have some of that. And then, just nature is always a challenge. Man is pretty clever, but nature can win a lot of times. Just a couple of months ago, the Quadima was puttering up to Goodenough Island, and we had an unfortunate prop strike on some coral, with the currents that got it in a situation. And yet we were able to get it up to an area in a sandbar, and then with our skilled people, they were able to get the prop off and hammer it out and get it chugged back to its home base, and then we replaced it, and now it's out operating again. And the skill sets that our people are trained to do are very important. But people are going to do that anyway. They're going to do it to make money. They're going to do it to be shippers or logistics or pilots or mechanics. I mean, yeah, you can go out and do that, or you can also do it for the kingdom.
Yeah. Now, I did a little bit of research on you. As you mentioned last week, you were in the military service, and then you were in the U.S. Congress.
Mm-hmm.
That does not seem like a typical career path to missions.
No.
How did you get called? Why? Like, why did you
I
leave
came
that?
to Christ reading the Gideon's New Testament at age 13 and surrendered to preach at 15. Really always had a heart to serve, but God had wired me to be a warrior. And I had an Army scholarship, ended up doing 21 years in the United States Army in the infantry. Served operationally in Kosovo, Kuwait, Afghanistan, and Iraq. But I also looked at the military as my mission field. And while I was a good infantryman and leader, I also did Bible studies, worked with a lot of partnered organizations like Officer Christian Fellowship, Navigators, Cadence International, a lot of them. We would host Bible studies in our homes, all of that. Military really was a mission field. Then after I left the military, 3 combat deployments in a 5-year period, it was just time to come home, watch my kids grow. I was involved with the hunt and capture of Saddam. Those events altered the course of my life. Simon & Schuster published my memoir called We Got Him, about the hunt and capture of Saddam. And I ended up on a national speaking circuit, traveled all over the country, still have an agent, still do a lot of speaking and traveling. And then that got me into a political career I never knew I would have. And I did 10 years in politics in both the Oklahoma State Senate and the United States Congress, representing Oklahoma's 5th Congressional District. And then when I left in 2019, God healed me of politics, thankfully, and I got back into full-time ministry. And I have 6 years total of pastoral ministry, a youth pastor in college. I was ordained in 1984, and then was serving as executive pastor in a teaching and discipling role, because admin is just no fun. And got into flying late in life. Got a challenge to learn how to solo in a week. I started on a Monday and soloed the Friday morning in the same week. Got my pilot license at 56, and I just said, God, where are you working in aviation where I can participate? No idea what I was praying. Formed a little nonprofit called the Redeemed Flying Corps to help defray cost of training for basic ratings. That led us on a mission team to come out and help JAARS in February of 2022, and they asked us to come and help them in the hangars. I said, do what? And they said, scrape paint. I'm like, yeah, we're qualified to scrape paint. Came out with 5 other guys, and we were scraping paint on a Helio courier and had a ball. And I just thought, all right, we finally got connected to a real mission organization. And a few weeks after that, they said that my name had been put in as a possible candidate to be the president of the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, right, this is nuts. So 4 months after that, after my little mission trip, unanimous board decision, they asked me to come and lead the worldwide organization. And I'm like, why me? I've got jungle stories, but they're not jungle missionary stories. I can fly, but nobody needs my pilot skills. And so they said, we need a change agent, someone to take it to the next generation, someone with a lot of operational experience and have global impact. And I said, I can help you with all of that. So having a good time. Our greatest ability is our availability.
Amen. You must have been great at scraping paint.
I was a good look. If this presidential gig doesn't work out, I've got a default skill, and I'll be good with that.
So you talked about being a change agent, next generation growth of the ministry. I can't express enough how important JAARS is for the global mission, because the last remaining people groups that are unreached are the hard to get, are the forgotten, they're the isolated. We got all the major people groups, we're in the major cities. They're covered. There's churches. It's the small, I think last week you're talking about 3,000 people total in a specific language, and they're isolated in a bowl of mountains. There's no roads. They're not going anywhere. Right. We need to go to them. So what is the greatest need at JAARS today as far as people, what the kind of people you want, that you're looking for to join JAARS, to be that last mile of missions person?
God wires us with unique skills and passions. He does it for a reason. If you're wired to do technical things, or you have a passion to fly or be a mechanic or do anything like that, you can do that to serve the kingdom. Or if you have other skills that are more traditional that could be applied across the board in support roles like personnel or just doing facilities or whatever it might be, there's a chance for you to serve and do that in an organization like ours, where we're all part of an exciting mission with air, land, and sea operations. And I would think with our people, people often ask, they said, okay, JAARS has a lot of young people now, and we've lowered the age of JAARS by 20% in the last 3 years.
Fantastic.
And people say, how are you doing that? I'm like, look, it's easy. The young people are there. We just have to go find them. God raises them up every generation. So I'm not worried about it. In fact, I'm encouraged by it, because they're already countercultural. They've already made a commitment that they're going to be different. They're being accused of being, against science, against education, being nationalist or hateful. Believers today, young men and women, have already made a choice to take a stand for Christ just by identifying as Christians. So I'm greatly encouraged by the current generation that we're seeing coming to JAARS, and we're getting a lot of them. It's pretty exciting.
Well, friends, you don't want to miss out on this. If you are a little bit radical, a little bit different, and you've made that choice to serve God, and you want an adventure, JAARS.org, JAARS.org. Start investigating what you need to do to join the ministry. There's things, of course, you have to raise support. There's other things that are involved, and you want to get talking to somebody, coached through it. And Steve and his team, I'm sure, would be glad to do that. So JAARS.org. Find your spot in the Great Commission, and probably, I don't know if there's a ministry that we've talked to here on the Mission Compass that has such a wide breadth of opportunity to serve. Steve, any last comments, any last prayer requests, anything that you want to just mention before we say goodbye?
Your greatest ability is availability. God equips the saints for his work. He blows it up all out of proportion. I've lived 4 lives crammed into one. If you're available, he'll use you, he'll train you, he'll send you to do his kingdom work. Come visit us on our website at jaars.org. Also, we have the Uncharted podcast, where you can hear a lot of the stories of the people that have been out there doing it. It's called Uncharted, and you can get it on the main ways that you get your podcasts.
All right, friends, if you want more, we got him, Steve's memoirs about his work in the military, the Uncharted podcast, JAARS.org. Steve, God bless you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate all the work you do.
Well, friend, we're at the end of our program today. You've been listening to Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. We really appreciate you joining us and would like to send you a special gift. Contact us to receive your free copy of Reset with Bonnie Sala, a 20-day devotional. Visit galcom.org and click on Mission Compass. Fill in your contact info and we'll mail a gift out to you right away. If you enjoyed today's program, you can listen again at galcom.org or on your favorite streaming platform. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and to share. There are many ways to partner with us, and to find out more, visit our website at galcom.org. That's Galcom, spelled GALCOM.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm Ron Harris. Thanks for joining us today on Mission Compass, a radio ministry of Galcom International.